Good morning, everyone. Today is January the 21st, 2021. It feels like an entirely new era. A weight has been lifted, a cloud has moved. I want to start you off with something so beautiful, a clip from yesterday's transition of peaceful transition of power, the inauguration. Jennifer Lopez sung something so beautiful, and I think this is going to a beautiful way to kick us off. Good morning, everyone that's joining us in YouTube, that's joining us in Facebook, and of course, is joining us at LinkedIn. Please enjoy this. This is just so beautiful.
This land is your land. This land is my land. From California to the New York Islands, from the Redwood Forest to the Gulf Stream waters. This land was made for you and me. As I went walking down that ribbon of highway, I saw above me that endless skyway. I saw below me that golden valley. This land was made for you and me. Oh, this land, oh, this land. This land was made for you and me. Oh, this land, oh, this land. This land was made for you and me.
Yes. Good morning, Sister Joyce. I'm going to jump into my...
God shed His grace on thee and crown thy good new brotherhood. From sea to shining sea. Una nación bajo Dios indivisible con libertad y justicia para todos. Let's get alive.
This land.
Me.
Yes. I feel like my face is gonna crack, y'all. I've been smiling all night, all day, couldn't sleep the night before. Good morning, January 21st, 2021. Welcome, a new day in America. For those of you that just care about America, it's not for today isn't about Democrat, it's not about Republican, it's about democracy. That's what it's really about. I've been following presidential inaugurations since I was I'd say 8 years old. I was born in 1985. I'm 35. I had a teacher, New Psalmist Christian School in Baltimore, Maryland. I remember we were in second grade at the time, and she says, you know, we're going to watch the inauguration. I remember thinking, what is an inauguration? She piles us all into one classroom. It's a small private Christian school in Baltimore. So it's probably about 100 of us in the whole school. We're all crowded into this auditorium. And that day changed my life. Good morning to all you that's joining. Please share this. That day changed my life. 1993, of course, was watching a young Bill Clinton. I remember seeing Chelsea, who to me would look like to be my age. I'm 7 or 8 at the time. What's up, Mike? Good morning, brother. And I remember then just watching and being so proud of the country. I was too young to know what Democrat was, what Republican was. I was just fascinated by, America and the promise of America. Of course, we know that we've got far to go. And I've talked a lot about jobs and justice, and I will continue to talk about how America has to live up to its promise. And I will continue to talk about all of the things that we got to do. But I want to say today how proud I am that America has turned the corner. America has come back swinging. I mean, don't look now, but this is a comeback swinging moment for America. America chose a better path. America said, you know what? We choose high. We choose hope. I know there were many people who walked in the voting booths and perhaps voted for the current president who did not share his politics, but this was bigger than that. What we watched yesterday, y'all, was a national prayer service. It really was. It was a part wake, part funeral, part church service. That's really what it was. I appreciated that the planners and that those that really conceptualized the inauguration thought of how to reach the soul. So the story that I was telling is I've watched every inauguration since 1993, everyone. And when I tell you I've watched everyone, I mean, so I told you the story, second grade, teacher pulls us in, we're watching Bill Clinton. At this point, now I'm fascinated. From this moment on, I go home, I'm reading about, the Clintons and more particularly the presidencies. And then I start reading about all the presidencies before. And from that point on, I've watched every inauguration. I've watched literally from 1997 when Bill Clinton was elected again. At this point, I was I should know this, but 12 years old. Who's 12 years old sitting in front of the TV watching? Me, and I was watching. At this point, we lived in Baltimore. I remember we used to go to the White House. I mean, you could still go in the weekends. You could line up like 7 in the morning. You might wait 4 or 5 hours, but we were going to the White House. I mean, mind you, I was nobody special. We were 8, 9. I'm dragging my mom out to the White House. We would go to, we must have toured the White House at least 4 or 5 times in that period when security wasn't what it nearly was today. Like I said, I'm 10, 11, 12, 13. I remember we go to DC, we could stand outside where the gates were, and when the cars for the president would come out, Clinton, you could see, like he had a motorcade, maybe 7 or 8 cars, but you could stand right there. I could see when he'd wave. I remember the time we were in the White House and Marine One landed, all that. So I'm telling you that. Then 2000, by the year 2000, by this point, I was going to the inauguration. I had a high school teacher. Shout out to Miss Sharkey. I was going to call her Professor Sharkey, but she's Miss Sharkey. She was our AP government teacher, and she taught us, this is when I started learning the difference between American government, the Chinese government, the French government. We were learning the difference between the premiers, the presidents, all that stuff. Anyway, she took us to the inauguration. It was interesting. And we got so much publicity for it as a city. The newspaper wrote it up and then asked us to recreate the debate. I played Bush. Mind you, that wasn't my politics, but I was fascinated by the whole process. And I remember someone else played Gore, and we went back and forth and had this mock debate. But it was fascinating to see, and I was enmeshed in this. I would come home every day and watch the count. I was waiting in the middle of the night, and we were watching Florida and seeing what's going to happen. I want to give you a timeline to say I've watched all of these things. Then 2004, when Bush was elected again, and of course there was a question about would he be because of this, what was going on then. Obviously September 11th happened. I skipped that. I was 16. I'll tell you that story one day. I got accepted to West Point. That's a whole nother story. Ooh, long story. I can't even get into that now. Skip to 2004. We're watching Bush get elected again. He defeated John Kerry at this point. Yeah, I remember that. Because John Kerry sort of came out the woodworks, whatever. Then 2008, I'm in Harvard Law School, right? And Barack Obama gets elected president. So this is now cataclysmic. And I remember we would go through the tunnels because Harvard has tunnels underground. For those of you that's ever visited the law school. Some of the other schools do too. There's like 24 schools in Harvard, but the law school has tunnels underground. So it's a whole labyrinth of tunnels that you would never see unless, of course, you go or whatever. But they have pictures there of alum who are doing great things. So at the time, of course, these big pictures of Michelle Obama, because she's an alum, Barack Obama, they were running for president at the time. And then who were they running against? help me out, I should know this. He was, John McCain, of course, and Sarah Palin. There weren't really no pictures of them because they weren't alums of the school. So the newspapers came in, television cameras came in to actually record us and our reaction. At this point, we thought he would win. We were a part of actually helping Barack Obama's campaign in Massachusetts. One of my professors, Charles Ogletree, bless this man, he was actually a professor for both Michelle and, former First Lady Obama, and President Obama. And so we were very involved. I'm talking about as a Harvard class, law school class, particularly the Black Law School Association, in just like wanting to see him get elected. And that was the first time I met Senator Kennedy. I worked for him in the Capitol in college, but I never actually met him then. That was the first time I met him, and that's when he and Caroline Kennedy were endorsing, like for the fourth time, Barack Obama. So anyway, bring this all the way to the day after Barack Obama was elected president. I want to tell you this story. I've been in classes my whole life. I've never seen anything like this. Barack Obama was just elected president. We had our class at Harvard Law School that we met in first. It was at 10 in the morning. It was taught by Professor Randall Kennedy. He wrote the book Nigger, actually. His brother's a federal judge. You can look it up. Groundbreaking book called Nigger, based on the history of the word. And it was a once-a-week class on Wednesday called Obama and the 2008 Presidency. And we were studying as a class this election in real time. We were studying everything from why was it that he talked deeper in Black audiences and not in white audiences, why he would say things like, call and response, fired up, ready to go. We would talk about whether if he had a white wife, would he have been elected, or would he be as popular as he was? Of course, there were people in my class that were on all sides of the spectrum. But we knew going into both the election and that semester that because the election would be Tuesday, that Wednesday, one way or the other, it would be an emotional day. People were just invested in what was going on. So we meet in this class, 10 in the morning. Many people hadn't even slept. Some had been on the campaign trail, literally just came to class, literally right from the campaign trail. Some they were actually connected with the Obamas, like Valerie Jarrett. Her daughter was one of our classmates. And Valerie Jarrett was the senior most advisor to both Michelle and Obama, Michelle and Barack. She actually connected them to. And so, she was like in, not the White House, but Obama's headquarters with them. And now she's in so anyway, saying all this to say, the most powerful experience is the morning after the election. I'm telling you all this to say, this is how I feel now. We're all in this class. People are crying. I mean, I've been in many classes. People don't just cry in class. People were crying. People were crying. People were talking about what it meant for their children, their children's children. It was a moment. It was a moment. Now, of course, I do have to say, I remember one. It was an Asian young lady. She raised her hand and she said, I don't understand why everybody's making this a Black thing. And people were on TV and they showed pictures of Oprah crying and Jesse Jackson crying. It's not just about them. This is a bigger picture than that. And I remember us all thinking, can we have one day? But I'm just saying this to say it was an emotional, I don't even want to call it class, it was an experience. But I remember us all feeling like, oh my gosh, our country elected a Black man. We were all very aware of the history of our nation. Come on. But it was such a pride and such a pride to know, hey, wow. And I remember when I would travel the world in those years, so after around those years, 2007, 8, 9, 10, those were the years I would travel to like China, South Korea. I was going to Amsterdam, Europe, all these places. And I remember what they saw of me because of Obama. That was powerful. I don't know how many people quite understand that. It was so much bigger than politics. I saw how, because the first times I would travel to Europe, I was just getting dogged. I felt like, I'm an American, I'm young, I'm Black. I would get profiled everywhere. It was just a bad experience. But then I would start noticing or go places. People would even say, like, I remember the first time we got off the plane, we were coming from Israel. We were laid over in, I I think it was Amsterdam. And I remember I got off the plane with Obama hat, and people were, this was 2007, before he even got elected. And they were like, Obama, Obama. And I remember thinking, wow. So anyway, fast forward that to 2012, of course, watch that entire thing. That's now Obama running against Mitt Romney. You know, I'm telling you all this to say, there were many times I really just didn't have a dog in the fight. I was interested in the outcome for America, interested in what's going to happen. And then come to 2016. Oh my gosh. I was, okay, full transparency, I was happy Donald Trump won. Full transparency. I thought it was time for someone that spoke freely and honestly about how bad the establishment had been. I tend to believe that's why a lot of people jumped on board. It was a lot of truth in the fact that, you know what, by and large, no matter who you put in, things don't change. By and large, there's systematic issues that those in power are never going to move. By and large, they're all working together for one agenda where it seems like the rest of the American people are trying to figure it out. There were comments made about in Black and Hispanic communities, they come only four times a year. That would be great, right? Once every 4 years, and that's just for the vote, promise things and then leave. Those were very true statements. It felt refreshing to have someone in there say, you know what, challenge these people that's been in office for 20, 30, 40, 50, 60 years and really have done nothing except to say that they've been in. For those of you that study politics and study history, you know that the concept of the career politician is really still a very new concept. It's a very Western American concept. George Washington was a soldier, you know, and then he finished fighting, you know, and became a president and then went back to his farm. You know, Harry Truman was a haberdasher. People actually had careers before. Now it's just politics for politics' sake. So full transparency, I was happy, not because I agreed with his politics. I was happy to see someone come in that would be anti-establishment. So I want to start with that because I don't want to come on here and not be honest about where I was 4 years ago. It was like, yes, stick it to him, because I couldn't say it to the people in power. I couldn't say it, but he could. I felt like, yeah, say it to him. Yeah, it is stupid people that are running some of the parts of the country. Yeah, true. And then I watched as an American. So once I kind of put my anger aside and my frustration and feeling like, oh, I want other people to feel like I feel, because that's really a lot of what that campaign was based on. It was based on, I'm angry and I want you to feel angry too. And that gets you but so far. But I began to look at the systems that are America, the ones that we actually do hold dear, the actual values that we hold dear. And I'm like, this is wild. And I began to, that's why I wanted to bring this full circle and begin telling you all of the stories that, you know, from all of the times that I've told you that I've, you know, been watching inaugurations and then working on Capitol Hill, you know, as an intern under, you know, Senator Kennedy, and visiting the White House and being at the Capitol and seeing all those places. I missed that when I interned, through my time interning and all that. Every place that you saw desecrated, I've been in. I've been in the president's room. I've been in the speaker's room. I've been in that little, what do you call it? They call it it'll come back to me, not that little area where they're standing, and the one where the cop said the Capitol Police said this is the most sacred area. It'll come to me. It's not the galley, but it's that one area. So it's all these, I've seen all of that. And I'm telling you to say, over the 4 years, I watched this. We were headed this way. I never saw. Usually, like, for instance, former presidents have deference with former presidents. And I was already seeing that in 2016. Now, I thought it was a very nice meeting, seemed to be between Trump and Obama in the beginning. But then I'm watching and I'm like, oh my gosh, you know, then regardless of your politics, to have a current president sort of say, I think the last one was spying on me, and you won. It just began to create a level of division. And then let's go back to this. Charlottesville, I could not actually believe this was the turning point for me. I'm just talking about personally. I don't know what it is for you. Maybe you never turned. Maybe, when I watched my president, okay, my president, right? Forget my politics, my president stand there, and after seeing someone get run over by a car, regardless of what cause was one or the other, I just watched people get run over by a car. And I couldn't believe that that my president wouldn't even condemn that. And then when he did, it was like a hostage video. So that's when I began to say, oh, this is different. I remember Bishop T.D. Jakes saying, have you ever got what you wanted, but you didn't want what you got? I know I've been there. Where I really wanted something and then I got it. And I was like, oh my gosh, I think that's what these last 4 years were. Who doesn't want somebody that'll speak truth to power? And yeah, tell them, because they are, and they've been in there for 40 years and haven't done anything. But what comes with that, and we saw, was a nastiness. Like, really? I mean, I don't want to go down that road. Just to say, for the last 4 years, I was hurt. That's what I'm really coming on to say. It was less anger. It was less resentment. It was hurt. Because, okay, let's keep in mind, I'm someone who believed in the idea of America. That's why I became an attorney, right? That's why since the age of 13, I was like, oh, I'm gonna be an attorney. I want to go to Harvard. I want to change the world. I want to do this. I want to do that. And I'm watching. And then what's sadder, and this is why I'm on here. I don't want to make this out about one person or one party. He didn't put himself in there. People get me. They talk about, we got to wait. The countdown to the inauguration. No. The countdown to the inauguration is now so we can have a real discussion. There are 74 million people, at least, that align with this. We've got to figure out, wait a minute, what am I missing? What am I missing? There has to be a better way. I understand, maybe you don't like government overspending, maybe you're socially conservative, The irony is most people of color are, when people talk about people being liberal and, people say like people of color are liberals because they're Democrats. No, the irony is a lot are socially conservative, but politically had to go liberal because the question becomes, if your morality is only about issues like abortion and gay marriage and not about feeding the poor and not about access to healthcare and access to education, then you always find yourself, kind of flip-flopping and going back and forth between socially conservative issues and politically, right? So I say all this to say, I watched over the last 4 years this disturbing sense that we disagreed, but not just we disagreed, but we had to be nasty in doing it. I remember Kanye West stood up and said, George Bush don't like black people. You look back at those times, George Bush seems like a savior, a messiah of sorts compared to what we saw the last 4 years. I mean, you almost appreciated the times when you could look at a man and say, I don't like your politics, but I appreciate what you're doing. I know that you still want America to move forward. Even though we disagree on how, even though we disagree on the method, I know that you want to push America forward. And so I began to wonder, and this is a question for all of us, where's America going? For those of us that are students of history, this is fascinating. This is fascinating. We watched it happen in the 1920s and 30s in Germany. We watched it. I think for those of you that study history, you need to know Germany did not start. It was a democracy. I mean, it was a monarchy, but then it moved to a democracy. A lot of times people don't talk about that. People don't talk about the fact that it was a series of moves and mechanisms that were made. First, they made the Jewish people the scapegoat. We've seen this before. And they said that the whole reason that everything was wrong in Germany and everything was wrong in the world was because of those people, right? And we saw how people, there's this interesting book, the Kaiser Wilhelm II, he's the last Kaiser of Germany. He advocated in 1917. Anyway, he lived for another, I think, 20 to 30 years. He lives in exile, I believe, somewhere in Scandinavia. His son, who never ascends to the throne, but it's interesting because I'm telling you a story. His son later, when Hitler becomes to power, there's talk about Hitler restoring the German monarchy. Of course, that was never going to happen, but it was just his way of trying to sort of show that he had a connection with the past. I'm bringing this story up to say the old king who was deposed was concerned that his son was too aligned with Hitler. And there was this conversation pretty much that the king says, I understand you want to be king and we want our family to rule again, but please don't tell me that you're going to pretty much go with this man just to do it. And the son was saying, if all it is the Holocaust that we have to sacrifice in order, he didn't use those words, but the massacre of the Hebrew people, in order for me and my children to return the Hohenzollern, that's their dynasty to power, then it's worth it. And it's this interesting point where the father, who's this deposed king, dies, kind of feeling like not knowing whether his son would, ever come back to power. And if he would, in which way would he do it? And that's the question we still find ourselves in now. At what point does power and principle clash? That's what we saw at the Capitol 2 weeks ago. I mean, at what point do power and principle clash? At what point do you just say, okay, wait a minute, there's a bigger cause? And I think that's the question where we're at. And we have to ask ourselves, what is America? I know we don't like to say it, especially when it reveals the ugliness on the inside, but I think we all have to play a part. Why were we entertained about the last 4 years? Many of us were. I was honest with you and told you I was glad when it first happened until I saw the way that it was coming, the way that it was happening. So the question is, how do we get to this place? And for those of us that love America, we don't want to say just because there has been a changing of the guard, so to speak, that still the flames and the undercurrents and that fire, that's really what it is, has not been addressed. And so today, it's such a wonderful day. It's a beautiful day. It's a propitious day. It's a cataclysmic day. I mean, it's an amazing day because it feels like it's the beginning of a turning point. It's the beginning of a turning point. I said all that to come to this place here because I got to jump off. How can you help us? We are going to do a lot of big things. We have a lot of huge things happening. First thing I want to call your attention to is there is a huge press release that my office is releasing on Saturday, January 23rd, 2021. For those of you that follow my story, you know that's a big day. But January the 23rd, 2021, a huge announcement. And I'll probably be on here to share it live, but there is a press release that my office is releasing both in English and in Spanish. This is huge. This is global release because I'm going to tell you why. There are a number of things that we've been working on in the past. We had to move quietly. See, when you have to know your moment. And we understood, particularly, remember I've been telling you that social justice, we've been on the forefront of this for a while, but we understood that as long as there were certain mechanisms in power, that we had to be careful on how we shared it. Because it's really that serious. The arm of the state was in the hands of not just a person, but a movement that really wanted to shut down voices that did not look like theirs. And so that could involve police retaliation, that can involve litigation, that can involve financial consequence. It's a number of things that we've seen done, especially when people get involved with social justice. So I said all that to say, we knew that wisdom was to wait to the inauguration. We've been plotting on this for years, hoping that at the inauguration, there would be a changing of the guard, So good thing we did not have to make the decision to go forward after the inauguration with there not being a changing of the guard. But I want you to know we're working with some huge names. And I'll be releasing them shortly, some partner organizations, but we are connected with some people all over the world who are, and I show little snippets. So for those of you that follow, go to darrellbennett.com, comebackswinging.com. You'll see some of the classes we've done in University of Cape Town in South Africa. We're going to begin in 2021. We're doing a whole rollout for some international classes that are happening in universities really across Africa and across Southeastern Asia. The second thing is some social justice movements that you're going to see us begin to roll out in some initiatives that we're working with both some local law enforcement and reform agencies here in New York City, as well as in Washington, D.C., as well as federally. There are a lot of federal hands, believe it or not, that are interested in moving the needle. They're interested in having the conversation about why is it that we make up 4% in America of the global population, but yet a quarter of the world's prison population? Why is it that of all of the people that are in prison, the millions, that 75 to 85% at any given time come from one sliver of America? And you know what I'm saying. So there are people that want to have that conversation. There are people that are in positions of power now that are willing to now make amends. It's not just about apologizing. When I went through the dark period that I went through in life, it was lectured to me, and I believed, and I had to do this. It wasn't just to apologize. I had to make amends. And so we are calling on the United States government, and we are releasing a series of actions that show, some of the organizations that we are working with, some big, bold moves to help America to live up to its promise, quite frankly, to help America be what it said it was going to be. We're working with some organizations that are also connected with the United Nations. This is a global thing. By the way, let me stop here. Comebackswinging.com. If you're interested in donating, please donate. Your proceeds go toward the movement and the fight toward pushing the needle. So let me finish what I was saying about this being a global thing. This is global. We understand, and this is what we knew already, but last year crystallized it, that the issues that we are seeing in Black and Hispanic communities and disenfranchised communities in America are not unique to America. It is connected with the global struggle for freedom that we're seeing all over the world. And we're seeing that this is not just happening across racial lines, it's happening across ethnic lines. What they're doing in China to the Muslims in that region is absolutely despicable. Now, we understand we can't take on everything. There's so many abuses of power that are happening globally. But what we can do is we're connecting with these organizations and now speaking on it. For those of you that know me, I've been connected with these things. You've seen on my posts, oh, I'm at the United Nations. I'm not saying what I'm doing. Or, oh, I'm meeting with this person. I don't necessarily say what I'm doing. But now we can begin to unravel some of those things. And I want to invite you as we go on the journey. I unveil for you 2021, my office's initiative is Jobs and Justice. Some of you have already answered the call. Some of you have already said, we want to be a part of it. We want to be a part of helping 100,000 people to get hired in 2021. That's what I want our office to be a part of. We're working with great companies like PandaLogic. More on that later. That already has hired over 1 million people, helped 1 million people get hired through companies. But I want to show you some of the initiatives we're unveiling even with them to help people get hired, help them get hired quickly. We're working with some of the social justice movements that are happening here, like National Action Network, some of what Reverend Sharpton is doing, as well as some of the other local initiatives here that are moving the needle. Again, jobs and justice. Let's get people hired, right? Let's get people deployed. Let's get people in their space. Why is all this important as far as an inauguration? It matters who has the resources. It matters. That's why I told you, it's not enough to just have people tell you, you can be great and woo, and get us riled up. It matters who has the key. It matters who sits in offices and government authority. It matters who has the authority to bring business leaders together. And so we're a part of working with organizations and initiatives to get people hired. That's a big step. If we can get people hired, We don't have to talk about some of the minutia of justice that has sort of kept us up at night. If we can talk, I told you what Victor Hugo said last time I was on here. Victor Hugo said that when there is crime, there will be darkness. And instead of focusing on the ones that commit the crime, we should turn our attention to those that created the darkness, the forces. And so we want to, part of breaking some of the forces that have created darkness that causes crime, that causes restlessness, that causes the tension in communities, that makes people look over their shoulders and do things that perhaps they wouldn't. The thing that changes that, let's get people hired. Let's get people hired. So let me end this with a call to action. The phone said it didn't understand this because it wasn't meant for you to understand. How can you help? www.comebackswinging.com. I need you to get connected. If you are an employer, listen to me. If you're an employer and you need help with hiring, you need to call me. I'm working with some huge people in the recruiting talent acquisition space. That's what we're doing at PandoLogic, is changing the way that hires are made all over North America. So if you're an employer, I don't care how small, we want to have the conversation. I don't care how small your organization is. Personally, we just want to have the conversation. What are you doing for recruiting? How is it changing? How are you, using AI technology now? And let's show you how to make technology build wealth for people. It's time out for talking about people to build wealth. We want wealth to build people. We want wealth to build communities. And so part of Jobs and Justice is, if you are an employer, DM me, write me, text me. Well, if you don't have my number, you can't text me. So DM me, write me. Particularly if you're a franchisee, if you own the main thing that I specialize in as far as the hiring, if you own several locations, let's say a franchise, or you have several stores. Maybe you're not at the place where you're hiring 50,000 at a pop, but you need 20, 30, 40 hires consistently. Call me, no matter where you are in North America, and I'll connect you with some of the resources that we're using to change how some of the world's leading brands are doing hiring. That's what we're doing over on the PandoLogic side. There's a whole team that's doing that. But part of the Jobs and Justice, which is my personal initiative and my office's personal initiative, is that while we are funneling people, right, and organizations and employers that need help with hires to PandoLogic to help them get the hires, we also want to have the conversation personally about, what's your culture like? Right? What's your culture? Maybe it's a reason why you don't get the hires that you need. I'm going to come on here and share some stories with some of the folks that we work with. And we're finding this. Sometimes it's just because of the way that your application is written. That can make all the difference. And so I'm going to come on here and I'm going to be talking about some of the things that we're seeing, best practices that's helping people get hired. You'll know when I do that, because I'm gonna have hashtag Jobs and Justice or hashtag hires, so you can join on and check me there. But lastly, I need you to share this. This won't happen without you. I need you to share it. I need you to, if you have someone that you know of, one, that can heed the call for Jobs and Justice because they're an employer and they're looking somehow to get hires. If they're in an HR company anywhere, you need to send this to them, because I need them to reach out to us, and so we can show them how we're helping communities get hired, not just people, whole communities. Secondly, if you know people that are involved in the justice system, I say involved in a very light way, they're impacted and they don't know what the heck to do. They don't know what's next. You need to go to comebackswinging.com. One, because there I share a bit of my story, right, about coming back from some dark periods, loss, tragedy, crisis, poor decisions, confinement, but also we're sharing the stories of other people that are pushing the needle. And if you get on there, I promise you're going to see a story of someone else that's going to lift you up. That's going to make you know that you can do it too. It's not over for you. And lastly, how can you get involved? You can get involved just by unlocking the greatness of who you are. I don't want you to just believe that the greatness is out there. That's where we always make the mistake. We always say we're waiting for someone else. There's a popular saying, scripture really, that we would quote in church, is Isaiah, the prophet, who is quoted as, when called by God, says, send me. It's two words that are short, but they're long. It's two words that are, they speak to purpose, they speak to mission, they speak to destiny, they speak to the greatness that is America. I'm bringing this full circle. I mean, it speaks to people who said, even though we might die trying to fight against a British king, we still think it's worth our freedom so we can forge a new nation. Right? It's that spirit, it's that feeling. And that's what I want for you to embrace. That send me. Send me. If not now, then when? That's what I want to ask you. If not you, then who? Who's going? I want you to know you can reach people that nobody else can. There are people in your communities, in your neighborhoods. I'm about to sign off, but I want you to hear me on this. I don't want you to minimize the power of what you are and who you are. I was once taught that what grieves you, you were created and designed to solve. Think about that. The thing that grieves you, instead of looking at everybody else saying, why didn't it tick you off too? Maybe it's because that was downloaded in you from long ago. And that was put in you, and it was a seed that's now germinating. And those feelings are not just frustration that should lead you to anger that stops at anger, but it's anger that is passion needing purpose and to direct you to say, send me. So how can you get involved? You can get involved by deploying your own skills, your gifts and resources to change the world right where you are. Because if we each make the change, I promise you, we'll turn the needle together. I've got to go. We've got a big day, a lot of work ahead of us today, particularly jobs and justice, to help a lot of folks. We're working with a lot of companies to help them to get hires. Again, if you know people that need that, you need to reach out to me right now. Have a wonderful day. Thank you all on LinkedIn, Facebook, YouTube. We will be back as we continue to talk about Jobs and Justice 2021. And I want you to know this. I want you to know this. Comeback swinging means that really no matter what happened in the past, you can still step forward. It doesn't mean that it won't be remembered. That's my story. I wrote the book Comeback Swinging because there are certain aspects of my past that are never going to go away. I understand that. I'm being vulnerable with you here. I absolutely get that. I could be 100 years old. I could go on and do all these phenomenal things. There are certain choices and certain aspects that'll never change. But this is what I know. The richness of who I am is actually not despite those choices, but because of them and because of the lessons. I've come out stronger and better and more empathetic, more understanding because of the dark times. I don't celebrate the dark times in my life. I don't celebrate poor choices. And so when I think about America, the story of America, it's really personal to me because my stories come back swinging, and so is the story of America. I mean, let's face it. Our country was built on hundreds of years of slavery and hundreds of years of displacing an entirely different group of people. That's what it was. Let's be honest about it. There is genocide in our background. There is slavery. There are confinement camps. In fact, many of those confinement camps that we held the Japanese in, they're still there today. They're being used as federal prisons. One of them is Petersburg. It's still operational. Those same internment camps are still being used by the government to house people, and generally people who are poor and people of color. It's still happening. But this is the thing. Come back swinging, just like in my personal story. That's what I told part of my personal story. It doesn't mean that we negate that in our past. America and the richness of America is that we embrace the fact that, you know what? We made those poor choices. But that's why we're quicker to come to the aid of other nations. I don't think it's incongruent that we have such a large military force just for peacekeeping operations and human rights. Who better than America? It's been said that the antidote is often in the poison. Those that are closest to the problem are closest to the solution. America, a country that, yes, has experienced slavery. Yes, America, a country that was a part of genocide. Yes, America is a country that was a part of marginalizing people. But we can turn the corner and say, because of that past, we recognize a better future. We're more sensitive to the hurts of other people because we've had it in our own time, in our own country. I think it actually makes us better and stronger to acknowledge the hurt that we've done, to acknowledge that there was that past. But guess what? What makes us great is that we come back swinging. We acknowledge the past, but we turn another corner. And everybody that took the oath, regardless of whether you agree with their politics or not, regardless of whether you look at this country and say, what the heck is happening? Because it's changed. It is changing. It looks different. You should know everybody that took that oath, they might look different, but their heart bleeds for America too. They too sing America. They too recognize the harsh history of America, but the beautiful richness. When we embrace that that's what we were, but this is who we are. That's what makes us great, truly. And I'm not trying to play on words in the last presidency, this make America great, but what makes America great really is that we get knocked down, but we get up. That's us. That's us. That yes, there was slavery, but you know what? This is still the best nation around. Yes, this is still the greatest deal in the world. And that's because we got racial issues. And I've said this when I remember I was in Europe and I made a speech. It didn't go over well. I said, y'all talk about us with our racial issues. Y'all don't even try over here. We got issues, I understand that, but we're trying. We're trying to figure out how does it work when we work and we live in communities and now we come to work and we don't know. It's hard when you don't know what people look like and excuse me, it's hard to acculturate yourself with other people and they don't look like you and they don't act like you. And it's changing. America is changing and it is scary if you are trying to hold on to what it was. But part of comeback swinging also for me was recognizing there was no going back to the past. I can't go back and undo what was done. I can't go back and be a child again. I can't go back and go through college again. I can't go back and undo. I can't go back and switch the story. America is what America was, but we can choose a better path. That was the whole reason of this broadcast, to say that the criticisms that you're going to hear from me, not that I feel like I owe an explanation for it, because this is my country as much as it is yours, but the criticism that you hear is not born out of wanting to see death come to America. It's born out of saying, I too sing America. And that what Langston Hughes said back in the 1920s? I too sing America. I too believe that this country can lead the world, not just in power and might, but in principle. Y'all gonna have me up here. I gotta go. Join with us. Comebackswinging.com. America's coming back swinging. We're excited for the future of this country. And we're excited for the future of this world because leadership matters. Leadership matters. And it's not just the leader of America that matters. America leading matters. And that's what's really good. Okay, let's go. Thank you all for joining me. I see the comments, y'all. I must do better with doing comments moving forward. I just wanted to get that out there. Join us on Comeback Swinging. Let's go. All right. Bye-bye.